Have you ever looked at an old photograph and barely recognized the younger version of yourself? Not just your face, but your pace. The way you moved through the world with laughter, curiosity, and a sense of time that felt endless. Now, everything feels faster. The news cycles, the technology, the conversations, even the way we relax, all of it feels rushed. We are told that staying busy is a sign of success, that we should keep moving, keep buying, keep achieving. But the truth is, the faster life gets, the easier it becomes to lose track of what really matters. Maybe you've started to feel it too, that quiet voice inside asking, is this it? Maybe you're starting to crave something more, or rather something less. Less noise, less pressure, less chasing. What if slowing down isn't falling behind? What if, at this stage of life, slowing down is actually the most powerful, most freeing, and most meaningful thing you can do? In today's video, we're going to explore what it means to truly slow down, not just in our schedules, but in our hearts, our homes, and our minds. You've lived through decades of change. You've done the hard work. Now it's time to choose how you want to live the rest of your life. Not rushed, not reactive, but with peace, purpose, and presence. Let's begin. 1. A quiet rebellion. When you reach your 50s, 60s, or 70s, something begins to shift. It's not just the birthdays or the gray hairs. It's the perspective. Life begins to feel both incredibly vast and suddenly fragile. You've lived long enough to see the world change in unimaginable ways. Technology got faster, conversations got shorter. Time somehow started feeling thinner. And in all that rush, something sacred has been slipping through the cracks: presence. For decades, many of us followed the script. We worked hard, we raised families, we paid bills, bought homes, saved up, upgraded, and kept going. Because that's what success looked like. That's what we were taught. Keep busy, stay productive, don't fall behind, keep climbing. But here's a quiet truth not everyone talks about. There comes a point when that climb no longer feels worth it. When the view from the top isn't more stuff, it's silence, stillness, clarity. Maybe you've felt it on a quiet Sunday morning, or standing by the window with a cup of coffee, noticing the way the sunlight hits the trees. That small whisper that says, slow down. This is what life is about. You're not alone. More and more people in their later years are beginning to realize that the true wealth of life has little to do with possessions and everything to do with peace. This isn't about giving up. It's about waking up. Waking up to the fact that you don't have to live in a state of constant motion just to feel valuable. Waking up to the idea that joy doesn't come from having more. It comes from needing less. Waking up to the realization that the best parts of life are often the quietest: the sound of birds in the morning, the smile of someone you love, the feeling of fresh air on your skin. The truth is, the fast-paced world we live in was never designed for peace. It was designed for productivity, for profit, for pushing forward at all costs. And if you're not careful, it will keep pushing you until there's nothing left but burnout and regret. But here's the good news. You have a choice. You always have. You can choose to step off the treadmill, to slow your breathing, to slow your spending, to slow your expectations. And in doing so, you make space for something most people are too busy to even notice anymore: real life. Because slowing down isn't about doing nothing. It's about doing the right things more fully. Listening more deeply, feeling more genuinely, loving more completely. So let this be your quiet rebellion. Not against the world, but against the pressure to live a life that isn't truly yours. You've earned the right to choose ease over urgency, to trade chaos for calm, to stop counting how much you have and start cherishing how you feel. In the next part of this video, we'll look at the story of someone who made that choice, someone who left behind the chase for more and discovered something far more valuable instead. Stay with me. 2. Walter's story. From more to meaning. Let me introduce you to someone I deeply admire. His name is Walter. He's 71 years old, born and raised in Ohio, a former high school teacher, husband of 45 years, father of 3, and grandfather of 6. If you met him, you'd say, "That's a man who did everything right." And he did, by all traditional standards. He worked hard, never missed a mortgage payment, and made sure his family had everything they needed. He coached Little League, shoveled snow for his neighbors, paid his taxes on time, and retired with a solid pension and a house full of memories. But when Walter turned 69, something shifted. He told me, "I looked around my house one morning and realized I was living in a museum of my own past. Every room was filled with things I had bought, built, or held on to. But none of it made me feel alive anymore. It just made me tired." He had closets full of clothes he no longer wore, a garage that could barely fit his car because of all the old tools and boxes, and a kitchen stocked with appliances he didn't even remember buying. But what hit him the hardest wasn't the clutter. It was the quiet. His children had moved away. His wife had passed a few years before. And suddenly, the big house that once bustled with life felt like a hollow echo. Walter told me he had a moment of realization. "I spent most of my life building up, collecting, saving, and acquiring, but I never stopped to ask, for what? What was I really trying to fill?" So, he did something most people only talk about doing. He let go. He sold the house, the one he'd lived in for over 30 years, downsized to a small cottage on the edge of a quiet lake, just a few miles from where his daughter lives. He donated boxes of clothes and furniture, gave away books, sold the old treadmill, even got rid of the expensive leather couch that no one ever sat on. He told me, letting go wasn't easy. Some things held memories. But once they were gone, I felt like I could breathe again. My home felt lighter. I felt lighter. With fewer things to clean, fix, or worry about, Walter discovered something unexpected: freedom. He began waking up early again, not because he had to, but because he wanted to. He started walking around the lake every morning, listening to the birds and feeling the wind on his face. He picked up gardening, just a few pots at first. Then it grew into a small vegetable patch he now tends to like. It's therapy. "Nothing fancy," he says, "just tomatoes, peppers, and a little basil, but it feeds me in more ways than one." But perhaps the most beautiful part? Walter reconnected with his son Brian, not through grand gestures, but through slow Saturdays on the porch. No phones, no distractions, just stories, coffee, and the sound of ducks on the water. Walter says, "I used to think that a big life meant having a lot. Now I know. It just means having enough and knowing what really matters." His story isn't about giving everything up. It's about letting go of what no longer serves you, so you can make space for what actually brings you joy. And he's not alone. More and more people are waking up to the fact that slowing down is not a loss. It's a return to what's real, to what's lasting, to what we forgot we needed. Coming up next, we'll talk about why our culture constantly pushes us to want more, and how understanding this pressure can help us break free from it, for good. You won't want to miss it. Chapter 3. The Endless Race. Why we're always chasing more. Let's be honest. We didn't come up with this "more is better" idea on our own. We were taught it, trained in it, conditioned by a world that rewards speed, noise, and excess. From the moment we were old enough to pay attention, we were shown billboards, TV commercials, magazine ads, and now, non-stop social media feeds. all repeating the same quiet message. You're not quite enough, but this product, this gadget, this upgrade might help. It starts small. A nicer pair of shoes, a better car, a newer phone, a quicker coffee maker. And before we know it, we've built lives around wanting the next thing instead of loving the life we have. And this isn't just marketing. It's how the system is designed. The economy doesn't thrive when people are content. It thrives when we're hungry for more. That's why, even in retirement, many people still feel like they're supposed to be upgrading, improving, or keeping up. But here's the truth. The finish line keeps moving. The minute you buy the new phone, the next version is already being advertised. The moment your house feels complete, a home improvement ad pops up with 20 more things to change. So we keep chasing. Not because we're greedy, but because we're human. And the world around us is engineered to make us feel like we're falling behind. But ask yourself, when was the last time buying something actually brought you peace? Not just a quick burst of excitement, but deep, lasting contentment. Maybe it felt good for a few hours, maybe even a few days. But that feeling fades. And then we're back to the same question. What's missing? It's not your fault. There's a psychological reason behind this. When we buy something new, our brain releases dopamine, the same chemical responsible for feelings of pleasure and reward. It's why shopping can feel like therapy. But just like sugar or caffeine, the high doesn't last. And once it wears off, we're left with the same emotions we started with, plus a little more clutter and a little less money. And so the cycle repeats. Spend, spike, crash, repeat. But here's what most people never hear. You don't have to keep running. You can step off the treadmill. You can say, I have enough. Not because you're settling, but because you're waking up. You're choosing a life with less pressure and more peace, less stuff and more soul. And you're not alone in that choice. Millions of people, especially those in their later years, are quietly realizing that happiness doesn't come from what we collect, but from what we feel. From time spent with those we love, from laughter, from fresh air, from silence, from stories told across a dinner table. The next time you feel the urge to buy something out of boredom, stress, or habit, try this instead. Pause. Breathe. Ask yourself, do I need this? Or am I just trying to fill a space that stuff can't touch? You'll be amazed how often the answer is, I already have what I need. In the next section, we'll explore simple, practical ways to begin slowing down. Not by giving everything up, but by choosing a more intentional, fulfilling rhythm of life. Get ready. This is where things truly begin to change. Chapter 4. 5 simple steps to start living slowly. Now that we understand why life feels so rushed, and why more so often leads to less joy, let's talk about what you can actually do starting today to begin slowing down. And let me be clear, this is not about selling everything and moving to a cabin in the woods. You don't need to change your life overnight. In fact, the most lasting change usually begins with the smallest steps. Here are 5 gentle, meaningful ways to live a slower, more intentional life, no matter your age, budget, or background. Step 1. Declutter your space. Lighten your mind. The things we own don't just take up physical space. They take up mental space too. Every drawer that's stuffed, every surface that's crowded, becomes a quiet source of stress. But don't worry. You don't need to tackle the whole house. Just start small. 1 drawer, 1 shelf, 1 closet. Pick something you haven't used in over a year. Hold it in your hands and ask yourself, does this add peace or pressure to my life? If it doesn't serve you anymore, let it go. Donate it. Gift it. Release it. The less you have to manage, the more space you create for rest and clarity. Step 2. Spend less. Choose better. Most of us don't spend money because we need something. We spend because we're stressed, bored, or influenced by advertising. Here's a simple rule. Wait 30 days before buying anything non-essential. That impulse, it usually fades. And if it doesn't, maybe it's something you truly value. But more often than not, you'll realize you didn't need it. And that realization is incredibly freeing. Instead, invest in moments. A day trip to the coast, a good book, a quiet dinner with someone you care about. These are the things that stay in your heart, long after a purchase loses its shine. Step 3. Create a pocket of stillness each day. In a noisy world, stillness is a radical act, but it doesn't require hours of meditation or silence. It could be 5 minutes of sitting with a cup of tea, no phone, no television, no distractions. Try starting your day without reaching for a screen. Instead, open a window. Listen to the birds. Take a deep breath. Let the day arrive slowly. Or take an evening walk with no goal, no destination. Just the rhythm of your steps and the sound of the wind. These moments of stillness are where we reconnect with ourselves. Step 4. Reconnect with someone who matters. Think about someone you haven't spoken to in a while. A friend, a sibling, a neighbor. Pick up the phone, send a letter, ask them about their day, and really listen. You don't need a big reason to reach out. The reason is simple. Connection is life-giving. Plan a meal without distractions. No television, no background noise, just stories, laughter, and the kind of conversation that lingers long after the dishes are done. Walter, from our earlier story, said the time he now spends with his adult son is the most precious part of his week, and it didn't cost a thing, just intention. Step 5. Celebrate the small joys. When life slows down, the little things begin to shine. The sound of rain on the window, the warmth of a soft blanket, the way the sun falls on your porch in the late afternoon. Start noticing those things. Let them fill you. Say thank you, even silently. Because these small moments, they are your life. Try this. Each evening, write down 3 moments that brought you peace or joy. Not achievements, not productivity, just presence. You'll be amazed how rich your days begin to feel when you start paying attention. Slowing down doesn't mean doing less. It means doing what matters, with more care, more love, and more presence. In the next section, we'll talk about something that often surprises people: how to handle the reactions of others when you begin to live differently. Because not everyone will understand, but that's okay. You're not living for them. You're living for you now. 5. Living differently. Dealing with social pressure. When you choose to slow down and live more simply, something unexpected often happens. Not everyone will understand. You might start hearing little comments from friends or family. Why are you downsizing? You can afford more. Don't you want a newer car? Why live so quietly? Don't you feel like you're missing out? These questions don't come from cruelty. They often come from confusion. Because for most of our lives, we were all taught the same story, that success looks like more. Bigger homes, fancier vacations, busier schedules, keeping up with trends, staying relevant, looking like you've got it all together. So when you step off that treadmill, when you stop trying to prove, buy, or impress, it can make people uncomfortable. Not because you're doing something wrong, but because you're doing something different. Here's the truth. Living slowly is an act of quiet courage. You're choosing peace over pressure, depth over display, presence over performance. And sometimes, the people still running the race will question why you stopped. But you don't owe anyone an explanation. And when you do respond, you can do it with calm confidence. Here are a few phrases you might find helpful. I've realized that I already have everything I need. I'm not chasing more. I'm choosing enough. I'm creating space in my life for what really matters. And it's not stuff. The people who love you, truly love you, may not understand at first, but many of them will start to notice something. You're more at peace. You laugh easier. You listen more. You seem lighter. And little by little, some of them might even follow your lead. Walter, from our earlier story, told me something beautiful. At first, my friends thought I was crazy for moving out of that big house, but now, when they visit, they never want to leave. They say my place feels calm, feels real. You don't need everyone to understand, you just need to stay grounded in your truth. Because, here's the thing, every time you choose to live slowly, you're planting seeds. Seeds of contentment, of clarity, of courage. And even if others don't say it out loud, they feel it. And in a world that never stops moving, your stillness is a quiet kind of leadership. So when someone asks, "Why don't you upgrade?" smile and say, "I already did. I upgraded my life." And that's not something you can measure in square footage, brand names, or likes on a screen. That's something you feel in your heart, in your breath, in your bones. In the next and final section, we're going to bring all of this together and reflect on why this season of life may actually be your most meaningful yet. Stay with me. Final reflection. A life that feels like yours. Take a deep breath with me. Let it be slow. Let it be full. This isn't the kind of breath you take when you're rushing out the door or checking your phone or running through your to-do list. This is the kind of breath that says, "I'm here. I'm alive. And this moment matters." Because at the heart of slow living is not just a change in pace. It's a change in presence. It's a decision every single day to show up more fully in your own life, to not just go through the motions, but to feel them, to not just own things, but to appreciate them, to not just be alive, but to truly live. You've heard a lot in this video: stories, reflections, science, practical steps. But if there's one message I hope stays with you, it's this. You are allowed to live differently. You're allowed to slow down. You're allowed to choose a life that is smaller on the outside but bigger on the inside. You're allowed to say, "I don't want more. I want meaning." And more than that, you deserve it. You've already lived a life of doing, of giving, of holding it all together. You've earned the right to live a life of being, of resting, of reconnecting with what matters most to you, not society, not advertisements, not other people's opinions, you. Because a simple life is not a lesser life. In fact, it might be the richest chapter yet. It's the chapter where you wake up and feel light, not from having everything, but from needing less. It's the chapter where you spend less time organizing your stuff and more time sharing your stories. It's the chapter where you no longer seek approval because you've already made peace with who you are. It's where joy doesn't come from what's new, but from what's real. And if you've been waiting for a sign that it's time to begin, this is it. You don't have to make huge changes overnight. Just one small shift, one quiet yes, one drawer cleared, one phone call made, one walk taken without the weight of rush. And then do it again tomorrow. Because life doesn't change all at once. It changes in the way you choose to show up in it, moment by moment. So, if this message spoke to you, even just a little, I invite you to type, "I choose slow" in the comments. Let's build a community where less really does mean more, where aging isn't about fading away, it's about becoming more fully who you really are. If this video brought you comfort, hope, or clarity, please share it with someone you love. You never know who's waiting to hear exactly this. And if you want to walk this journey together, don't forget to subscribe to Wise Elders Insight. Because we're not just creating videos, we're creating space. Space for you to breathe, to reflect, to live with grace. Thank you for being here. Slowly, intentionally, beautifully. Your life is still unfolding, and the best pages might just be the ones ahead.